Ow! Greetings YouTube, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. So I'm back with another review of Terra since I missed a week, so I had to go and watch two rather than one, so today you're getting a 2-for-1. So we're going to go ahead and start off with episode 6. This one was a very interesting episode. Was a detective story. So Terra experiences his first murder. It's kind of interesting the way it was done. They locked a dinosaur in a transmitter station, and when one of the soldiers went out to investigate, the dinosaur of course wanted to get out, and of course was hungry, so guess what became lunch. So they figured that this was all planned, and so it was up to Jim to go in and investigate, seeing how Jim back in the 22nd century was a cop. So Commander Taylor hires him on to become a cop. And so that's what he's been doing, in all these episodes, using sort of a cop intuition to help solve various issues in Terra. So this one kind of brought his detective skills to full force, trying to figure out why this person was killed and who killed him. So it was a fairly straightforward story with a lot of plot twists going on. And also in between that, there was also an ongoing plot involving Josh, the oldest son, who had taken up a job at a local bar run by a really shifty guy who, if you've been watching the episodes, has been working with the Sixers. I forget the guy's name. So sorry, I'm really bad with names. I'll be sure to write that down on my little list again. So anyway, Josh, who has been working with this guy, he's been doing it because he wants to get his girlfriend, who's still in the future, or their present, whatever, back into, 85 million BC. So this guy says, well, I can do that. And he's in cahoots with the Sixers in some respect. So we're not yet certain how this is going to come about, that how the Sixers are able to get people through the portal. Somehow or another, they're able to actually pull some strings. So he has Josh to actually go and meet Mira, the leader of the Sixers, and she basically says that I'll do it for you, but you've got to do something for me one day. They don't say what it is. So it's a fairly interesting little plot snippet that they're kind of doing and unraveling the larger picture. So, of course, long story short, they do find the killer, but they do it in sort of a roundabout way, because they kind of, as these detective stories go, they find someone who they think was the killer, and of course they find out it's not quite what it is. So, and it's really actually a pretty good plot, even though it was a relatively thin one, but not like really bad or anything. We're talking about the person who they suspected of being the killer. So interestingly enough, they find out, of course, who the killer is, and the person they think is the killer, they end up punishing by banishing him out of Terra until they find out that he's not really the killer. When they find out who it really is, it's kind of a pretty cut and dry thing. Almost kind of went over my head a little bit, because as it goes, detective stories kind of confuse me from time to time. But I do know a lot of people who probably really love those types of stories. So this one was a pretty interesting episode. I thought it was really good until I saw the next episode. Now I'll get to that shortly. So before I saw the episode afterwards, I would have given this one probably a solid 8. But it went down on 7 because compared to the plot in this episode, episode 7 really goes above and beyond. Now, like I said, there is some good character development in this, especially involving Josh, and also, of course, Jim's character, where it shows more of him being a cop, and of course, Josh is more and more making sort of a deal with the devil in order just to get the girl he loves, into Terra. So we're going to see what happens with that. So it does move the plot along, but it didn't do as big of a plot move is the next episode. The next episode was really good. So let's move on to that one. So the next episode involved a meteorite that landed very close to Terra Nova. Now, I actually had learned this somewhere along the line that it is actually true that if enough metal concentration is in a meteorite and it lands a large enough meteorite and it lands near an area with a lot of electronics, that if parts of that meteorite explode upon entry into Earth's atmosphere, it can release an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, and knock out electronic systems, across the board. And that's what happened with Terra Nova. Everyone's in the middle of doing what they're doing, and all of a sudden everything just goes dark. So I was thinking, like, oh man, how are they going to be able to fix this? Because even the storage of the emergency storage of electronics and whatnot is still fried. Even because that's what EMPs do. Even if something's inactive, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to just stop working. Or, that it's not going to be affected. Unless that particular piece of technology is specially shielded from those types of things. But all the mechanics of that are pretty much, set in a tiny bit of exposition. What really is interesting is the stuff that goes on. For instance, this is a good episode that developed Maddie's character, the middle daughter, who, of course, is the little nerdy genius who is slowly falling in love with one of the soldiers. Well, the soldier actually kind of likes her too. It's pretty obvious. He takes her outside the city on a little pleasant trip into a flowery meadow. But then after the power goes out, it affects, of course, the Land Rover vehicle that they used to get to Terra Nova and back, from Terra Nova and back. So they have to hoof it all the way back home, and of course get caught outside at night. And well, if you've been watching the show, getting caught outside at night is a really bad idea because they got some dinosaurs out there that would just see you as the next tasty snack. So part of the plot centers around her and the little soldier boy as they're trying to make their way back home. Next ends up being centers around Jim and the youngest daughter, Zoe. Now that I really like because they really haven't developed Zoe's character much. Maybe it's just me, but I think that when it comes to really young kids, it takes a bit to make them really interesting characters instead of just being the cute little kid, kind of like how Michelle was in Full House, if you remember that. And I'm not going to sit and rag against the Olsen twins because I actually liked Full House and I thought Michelle was like absolutely adorable. Anyway, so it develops Zoe's character a little bit, and of course a relationship with her and her dad, in that they are trapped in a particular room where they had this like computer that can actually scan all of history and stuff. It's really pretty cool thing that they did with that. And how they managed to get out of that room because the EMP fries the door controls. The next plot point is a really cool one. It involves, of course, Elizabeth, the mom, and of course she works in the infirmary. So, of course, a lot of really interesting things are going to happen. This one kid who's a friend of Sky, who is, of course, the girl who has a thing for Jim. Not Jim, excuse me. Josh, so the oldest son. One of her friends ends up eating some sort of food that gives him a parasite. It looks like I'll say this about Terra Nova on the side. It doesn't hold back. It does not hold anything back when it comes to some of the gross out factor. When you can consider some of the things that might have existed in this period of time, and how they might affect a human. They affect a human in a big way. It just reminds me of that episode where Maddie wanted to become a doctor and she was seeing all those really weird and gross things. The guy with the weird huge tumor or growth on his neck, and one person had a ginormous leech or something like that on his back. It had some pretty gross out moments. This was probably the grossest because he was infected with something that was like a tapeworm. And it was a really big tapeworm because they were trying to get it and roll it out of him little by little by little. And this poor girl was doing it into the night. While the rest of the doctors are trying to do their things after this what's called EMP, which fried every electronic system. Even the they call them bio beds. I guess it's some really advanced thing where you can do surgery without even going, going internal. Well, they had to do it the old-fashioned way with him. So it involved him being, him and getting a parasite removed, and it developed a little bit of Sky's character and some of her relationships with some of the other people who she knows. Because Sky is actually sort of, I didn't say this before, for those of you who don't know, Sky is, she is sort of a love interest for Josh, but she also comes like a group of teenagers to early 20s, 20-somethings, who've had to kind of live on their own because they lost their families in Terra Nova. But she's a very, very self-reliant and very strong and a very, very good character. The episodes have really developed her as a character as time has gone on. So anyway, so it involves a friend of Sky and having them to get that parasite out even after the power outage. But then the next storyline is the best, because this is kind of bringing things sort of a culmination after a particular thing that happened a few episodes back, where the episode with the little girl that they found, who was sent into Terra Nova to retrieve that box. And this box no one can open. Well, in the episode before this, they found that it was encoded to someone's DNA, but you don't know who it is. I thought it was Mira's DNA, but in this episode they actually show who it was encoded to, because the Sixers who have an operative in Terra Nova now, I'm wondering if it's someone other than just the little happy bartender who's just been playing double agent. But they learn, of course, that Terra Nova is without power, so they decide to make their move. Now, I thought they were going to make an all-out attack on the city. And this shows that now, when they do use dinosaurs in Terra Nova, and I'm glad they're doing this, because I was worried that they were going to overuse the whole, we're in the past, we're 85 million years in the past, we're going to have dinosaurs everywhere. The dinosaurs are still kept into a very, are still like, how would I put this? They're kept as sort of a background element, where they don't really show them off a whole lot. The only episode where they were really just showing dinosaurs to show them off was the very first episode. This one, however, they showed off they did it in a very effective way. The Sixers actually were using a Spinosaurus. Now, if you don't know what Spinosaurus is, if you've seen Jurassic Park 3, that's a Spinosaurus. That big hulking thing. They sicked it on Terra Nova. That was just incredible. You see them just pulling these ropes and hauling this big ginormous Spinosaurus, just like pissed off as can be, roaring and snapping and setting him up at the gates. But that ends up being a bit of a distraction. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the distraction is all about, because I really would love for all of you to watch the show. But it does end up being a distraction for them to do a particular thing. And what happens at the end really moves the story along more and really unravels a bit more of the mystery while adding more mystery elements. And this is what I've been liking about the show, because, as I said before, it reminds me a little bit of it's reminding me a little bit of the 4400 in that every episode revealed a little bit, yet put a little bit more into the mystery, keeping you interested in what was going to happen in the next episode. It's been doing this very, very well every single episode, and still having episodes that have been just really, really well written and really keep you interested. And so this one, definitely 9.5 out of 10. Great episode, great character development, great use of technology and the lack thereof, and with the dinosaurs, and just revealing more some of the mysteries and adding more to it. Great all around. Good job, people. So, I think that's about it. That's all I have to say. And I'm really sorry that I waited so long to do this. Chalk it up to just my being lazy. But this is not going to be the last Terra Nova review. And so just remember, any comments, thoughts, whatever you'd like, leave it down there in the comment section. Rate, subscribe, whatever. Please subscribe if you haven't, because I will have more of these coming. And just as always, down there in the comment section, please remember to keep it civil as always. And as always, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. Until next time, stay lucky and stay blessed.